Hi, everybody. You're going to hear a weird echo from me. I'm sorry. I'm going to talk as little as possible. We finally got the audio going at the last minute, and I couldn't fix this noise. I'm wondering. Let's see. Oh well, with what? Yeah, let's do this. Does that take care of the funny noise? I don't know if it does or not. Um, what we got with us today is the Pixel Heads. They are hanging out behind me. The people from Discord, from DrZzs Discord, there's about a half a dozen of them. If they want to introduce themselves or whatever, I'm going to kind of turn it over and close my mouth so we don't hear the echo. So, guys, take over.
Hey guys, so we're gonna do some playing around with starting with LED. 'Tis the season. So our buddy Justin just got a new house, so we're gonna have some fun and design him
Yeah, he needs some permanent Christmas lights
some
so
new
he doesn't have to
permanent
go
Christmas
outside.
lights for the house. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna start by drawing this up in xLights because when you have a hammer, everything's a nail.
So Chris, a lot of people when they start for the first time, they don't really know what to look for. So maybe let's talk about controllers a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, kind of while you're drawing and thinking maybe Justin's going to send us a picture. Um, the gateway to LEDs, I think, are the dig devices, right? So Quindor's got some pretty great products out there. Easy to start with, easy to get dangerous with. You can do a lot with them. And then when you get over the hump and you decide, hey, I want that big show, I think that's when a lot of people jump into xLights. But I think the plan for today is a great idea is we'll use the xLights visualizer to kind of help us map things out. Mostly because we're really used to it.
So I opened up xLights and it asked me to pick a show folder. I guess I should have showed you that too. I just made an empty folder on my C drive or my D drive actually, and then I copied this picture into it. So I went over to my layout tab here. It starts off here in controllers. I went over to layout and I click on background image and then click these three little dots. And I chose that background that I copied into the folder. And boom, there we are. Now, what I like to do is to drop this brightness down quite a bit because
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people when they come in, they're looking for options when they come visit us in Discord. I think there's two really great options available right now. The Permatrack is fantastic. I've got that on my house. The new product that's out now are the Pixel Pucks. You can run those Pixel Pucks. You can get 24-volt versions of them. The dig devices will do 24 volts. And that's a really great lighting wash, especially for year-round lighting. I've got pixels on my house because unfortunately I don't have the soffits for it. Um, so Chris, I was thinking maybe we could do it both ways. Maybe we could do some pucks at like 6-inch spacing, and then maybe we could do some pixels at 2-inch spacing.
yeah, I think that Permatrack has pucks available now too.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So we got to kind of figure out where we're going to start, right? And I know a lot of people tend to start like all the way at one side and then try and run everything all from one side. But looking at the way Justin's house is set up here, I think what we want to do lights along here along the lower soffit, right? And then we're going to do definitely along the roof line here and maybe some window stuff, something around the doors.
Chris, you might want to bring the brightness up a little bit. It's really dark through Zoom.
How's that?
Yeah, now you can see the house a little bit.
Cool. So I'm thinking maybe hide a controller over here under the porch, maybe on the porch ceiling. I can't see under your porch, Justin. How's that work?
So what I think I'm going to do is to the right of the porch where that lower roof line goes up. That's an attic.
Okay.
So kind of down above that window, I can get
So I think
anything from
the
there.
consideration I want to throw out here is we're thinking about distance to the first pixel, right? So that's going to be our
Right.
first challenge when we're laying out a new design. The pixel data, you're going to be lucky to get it to go 10 feet, 15 feet from an ESP, maybe 2 feet if you're lucky, right? So what we're talking about is we want to find a central location where we're gonna have very short runs for the first pixel on each of those individual lines that we're gonna run them on.
So let's say that this is our first line and we're going to draw lights across the front of the house. And I'll make those a little bit bigger. Probably make it easier to see that way. So then if Justin's going to have his controller up here coming out of the attic, maybe come down along the roof line and then catch this first light here. What's that going to be, like about 10, 12 feet or so, Justin?
Yeah, it'd probably be
Okay.
under 10 feet from there over.
Sounds good. I think with the new DrZzs, when you throw that switch to 33, you can get closer to the 20-foot mark. You know, always shorter is better.
So the newer quads and Unos both have resistor output dip switches. They're underneath the ESPs. So for folks that don't know that they're there, they come set from the factory at 249 for reasons I don't know. But for most of your Christmas light usage, where you're going to be running 3 conductors in a single sheath, our recommendation is generally to set that to 33.
I thought I had one here on the desk, but that's a DIY Uno. That's not going to help us. Okay, so this is going to be our first roof line, and then we're also going to do up here, right? So let's draw something like that. And I'm kind of drawing this from an xLights perspective and not at how we're going to run the pixels perspective. Everything in xLights you want to run from the left to the right. But when we do the pixels, we'll tell xLights about that differently in a minute. So now we've got lights across the top, we've got lights across the front. So our first pixel on the top row would be up here, right? That's close to our controller. We run it backward. Give me a second to grab a browser tab. Oh, I was going to show you the Uno that's currently sitting powered off next to me. Hold, please.
Anybody have some fun hold music?
Oh, yeah. All right, here's another Uno. Never enough Unos.
All right, the only one I could find is an old one that doesn't have the dip switches.
Yeah, me too. I think I have a couple new ones. I just don't know where they are.
Yeah, same.
They
I've
might
got
be in
that my hoard of pixel stuff.
Yeah, I found them too.
So when we come in and we set up our LEDs, you connect to your DIG Uno or DIG Quad. This process is the same. We're going to have 2 LED outputs. This is our first LED output. It's on GPIO 16. Here's our second one. It's going to be on 3. So let's say that our roof line is LED output 1 here, right? I'm going to come here. I'm going to check the reversed on LED output 1. That's going to help WLED cope with the fact that it's backwards from the way that the other lights are. So that as I'm running, say, a candy cane effect from left to right across the house, that the top roof line is doing the same thing the bottom roof line is doing. And we can kind of make that look like that next light's here in a second. So as I habitually click the save button every time that it pops up, it's kind of a reflex mechanism because you never know when it might crash.
Spam the save button in xLights.
If it's red, click it. Okay, so we've got lights going across here. We've got lights going across the top of the house. We'll work on some spacing on the lights here in a minute. Let's draw some windows. There's a window. We'll pretend that's exactly the edges of the window because we can see it through the tree. And we'll do the door too, just because it sounds like fun. We'll get these a little closer here in a minute. We'll do right click, align top. Something like that. Justin's picture is kind of a little bit at an angle, so it's going to be a little off from some of the things we want to do with it, but it'll be close enough for getting things planned out and figure
Yeah,
out
it
things
won't
from
matter
there.
for the planning. Somebody might be able to pick it out if we ran a sequence with a whole house effect, though.
Mm-hmm. So here's our window frame 5, which is currently called window frame 5. We want to call it door frame. You guys all watch me mistype stuff in Discord and retype it all day, so it shouldn't be any surprise I do the same thing here. We're going to say lights at the bottom for the door is going to be 0.
And as he's doing here, it's very important to go ahead and set up your names for everything before you start sequencing anything. Because if you go back and start sequencing it and change names, you're gonna have to remap things or things will be missing. You'll get a bunch of errors. So that's the reason why he's making sure things are named as he goes.
Yep. So if you look at these window frames, you can tell there's not a whole lot of lights at the bottom of them, so we're going to fix those. Probably it's not going to have 50 lights there along the side. Let's do 20.
I mean, I think you should do a double window on that one on the garage.
Yeah? You thinking like this?
That one, so the one you're on right now, Chris, is actually a bay window. There's 3 windows there.
Oh, look, there we go. We need 3 windows there. Thanks, Justin. Keep us honest.
Not that you can really see them from this picture, but yeah, there's 3 windows there.
Yeah,
So
next time try not to hide it behind a tree.
there's
I was
only
just thinking we'll all pitch in and get him a chainsaw.
there's only 12 trees in that giant cluster that's blocking the whole left side of the house.
Amazon sells
just
some
a
really
few.
nice copper nails. All right, so now there's way too many pixels on the top and bottom. Oh, wait a minute. It's about right on the top and bottom. Let's say it's 10 on the top. Wow. Math is hard. Steve, that's your line.
Math is hard.
All right, so 10 by 23. So we're going to delete these guys.
Goodbye.
I'm going to click this one. I'm just going to press Control C for copy and then Control V for paste. And then do that again. And we're just going to pretend like these are going on the bay window in some place that we can see it and make it look like a bay window. Now these are all 3 the same size and they're all the same height. We can make sure they're the same height with the line top. Helps for some things. Let's throw a couple less pixels there. Let's do that as, I don't know, 30. It looks kind of ballpark, like it's the same all the way around. Once we actually build these window frames, we can come in here and fix this. This is just to kind of get a start on it.
So while you're typing through that, Justin, have you thought about how you might build these window frames? I suggest that you don't drill PVC because that was horrible and I never want to do it again.
You're still
Yeah,
picking PVC pieces out of the garage, aren't you?
Yeah. My car, the garage, the shop vac, everywhere.
it,
I know a
Oh,
lot
come
of
on.
people
It's
do
not
drill.
that bad.
you'll never stop finding PVC if you drill it. It works great. And by great, I mean it's a pain in the butt, but it works. It's cheap. But I will not be repeating that when I build the frames for this house.
So what do you think you're going to use? Have you put any thought behind that yet?
I have a couple boxes of pixel pipe.
Okay. So you're going to build it out of pixel pipe.
That looks to be the plan right now. They had a a deal earlier this year, and I could not pass that up. So that's the plan. But the 2 boxes showed up, and then the project with the house continued on. So it just went up and above the garage for storage.
My lips are sealed. We will never mention it again. One of the things I was thinking about was using some of the EFL trim potentially when my frames finally do die.
You know, I really like what Marcus has done with his windows, but that would require also having a CNC to custom cut your own windows.
I mean, it seems like the perfect excuse to buy one.
But yeah, his nice double layer windows are pretty cool and I think different. But yeah,
I was
that's
actually thinking you could take a piece of the pixel pole and slice it down the middle and then use that to build window frames out of.
are they 4 pixels wide or are they 6?
There's 6, so if you split it in half, you get 3.
Yeah, because I have the NSR ones, and I think those are 6 pixels.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't, no, the
Not
regular
that,
ones are 4.
not that I would want to use NSR ones, I think, for
Yeah, I
PowerPoint.
don't think that would look right to slice it up like that. But I think that pixel pole would look pretty cool.
Yeah, 'cause I
Slice
have
it.
the NSR ones that I mostly used for testing when I did the Evo comparison, but there's the 2 posts next to the porch, I think might actually get those.
Yeah, I see somebody in the chat was talking about the J channel. The J channel is another option. I never want to drill that many holes again in my life.
Yeah,
It's worth a few extra bucks to buy a product that's already got the holes for you.
I drilled the J channel for my house, and I would honestly never do it again.
Somebody else in the chat was mentioning, what about using seeds behind it? I like the seeds. They're a really interesting product. I don't know that it's repairable. The wire is just so small that I don't have a lot of thought in longevity for that. I
And then
bought
also replacing the pixels.
what's that? Yeah,
I
yeah.
said also replacing the pixels.
I bought some pixel curtains from Ray Wu this year that I'm trying out on the one window, and they look really good. But I feel like if one of the curtains fails, the whole thing just is trash. I don't really see it as being easily repairable.
Yeah, and some of them have better wire than others, but still, it's still kind of a
It's so thin.
they're short, and the spacing
Yeah.
is just so, and to get a repair going, so it looks like you're happy with it.
I mean, more power to you if you're able to make connections on those and solder and get them linked back together. But I don't know that, especially for a beginner, I don't think don't buy a lot of seeds and expect to be happy with them. I think that the pixels are fairly easy to either solder or use the solder seal connectors. Repairability, right? So the other thing we didn't mention is repairability. Like when you're doing your planning, think about how you're going to fix a problem here, right? If Justin has a problem on the roof line, how's he going to fix it? The way all my Permatracks installed is I had custom strings made so that I can pull the whole piece of track down, fix it on the ground, and then go back up and fix it. I know that some people do just buy off-the-shelf pixels and then kind of splice them together and make it fit. But, when it's 20 degrees and the wind's blowing and it's icy, do you really want to be up there trying to solder it? Probably not for me.
Yeah, some of the people in the chat are saying that they can't find J channel to fit their house, and I know we hear from people that they can't find J channel at the hardware store.
Yeah, well, especially in the Southeast, I think the vinyl siding is more popular in the Northeast and Midwest.
Right.
Um, the vinyl, I believe, does not do very good in the warmer climates. It tends to melt in the sun. Um, the other thing I'll mention for folks is I've ordered the puck track from Paul Zhang direct, and they're able to color match it for the same price. So if you're willing to go direct and not buy from a US reseller, you can get the color match track. It's readily available. It's just going to take you a little bit longer to get it. You're looking at probably 6 to 8 weeks for container shipping.
His stuff is really good. That's what I put on my house this summer as well.
Oh, that's right, Joel. You replaced a bunch of pixels, right?
I replaced 65 meters of J channel with puck track.
What spacing did you go with?
I went with the 10 meter,
Nice. 12 volt or 24 volt?
12.
Okay. I did a project with the 24 volt at one of my friend's houses. It worked really well for long distances. He's in a Victorian with a big wraparound porch. He's got one quad in the middle, 24 volt power supply, and then he's able to wrap the whole porch.
Nice.
Basically no drop in brightness. Way.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Nice to
got,
get a little more distance out of those.
yeah. If I didn't have all the controllers I have spread around the front of my house, I probably would consider that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I'm
24
already
volts
heavily
nice for
invested in
year-round
12
stuff
volts,
too.
so
Uh-oh, we just got an echo. Who echoed?
Echo in Zoom or echo in YouTube?
It was in Zoom.
Yeah.
I didn't
okay.
hear an echo.
I think we just had people talking over.
How are we doing on the layout, Chris?
I think we're doing pretty good. We've got roof lines, we got windows. Wasn't sure how crazy we wanted to go.
So what are we gonna run these all off of a quad or an octa? What are we thinking here? Right, we're just getting started this year. We're not
Right.
quite building a show yet.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of future planning, right? So we could start this year with just the roof lines because that's an easy way to go, right? It's pretty easy to, if I can click the right things, you can right click and set these inactive for now and come back to them at a later time.
Yeah, we can emphasize that playing in xLights and coming up with your layout, playing it around, trying new props is always best instead of buying a bunch of stuff and then trying to figure out how to make it fit.
That's for sure. It's a whole lot cheaper to do it this way and a lot less work.
So maybe we'll try on another stream to do the 3D to scale model and run folks through that. But one
That'd
of
be
the
good.
nice benefits then is you can put the props in to scale as well and see how they're gonna fit.
Yeah, that'll be good. We can have Justin give us a bunch of snowflakes to put out here.
A lot.
16 moving heads on the roof, right?
On the
All of
upper
the
roof.
moving heads.
But he
So,
lucks
hey-
out because this roof is a lot less steep than the old roof, so he has those options.
So Chris, I think for Justin's first year, maybe he's going to use a dig quad for that. I don't know what you're holding up, Justin. Is that your middle finger?
Someone said something about snowflakes. I got
Snowflakes.
snowflakes off the
You
print.
got built
Yeah, those would
a
look
build
good.
plate full of snowflakes over there.
It
My
just
wife and I were actually talking about that. I want to do a snowflake wall next year, so I'm going to start printing.
Yeah. So we're going to do a dig quad and it's going to be inside Justin's attic over here. And we're going to connect all this stuff up. So our next step's
How-
going to be setting up the controller, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say, Chris, how do we set that up in xLights?
So I'm going to come over here to the controller tab and I'm going to click on add Ethernet. And that pops up this window over here. We're going to call this attic.
And I just want to throw out for folks that may grow in the future, keep those WLED devices at the top of the list. WLED gets a little finicky on the channels when you start adding other controllers in.
So we're attic dig quad, and I'm going to choose the vendor is going to be WLED. Wow, that list is longer than I remember it. And then here we're going to choose dig quad. And we're going to leave all these checked. And we're going to change the protocol to DPP.
Why do we care about that?
So DPP is a little more effective on the network. It's efficient, uses a little bit less data to transmit the same amount of pixel commands, and reduces some of the lag that you get with wireless pixel data.
Yeah, one of the things I like to say is the WLED devices are like musicians without the sheet music. Somebody's got to tell them every note to play. When you move on to some of the other controllers that have SD cards in them, it's like they get their own copy of the music. When you run the E131, it's just a ton of network traffic. Probably gives Joel nightmares with how much is going on. But you'll also notice occasional stutters too, even on Ethernet devices.
Yep. So Justin's done lots of work in his house getting wire chases up to the attic. So I'm sure he's already got plans to get Ethernet up there for this
He's
controller.
absolutely wiring everything.
So this is going to be an Ethernet dig quad, but we're still going to set it up for DPP because it's more consistent that way.
Well, it saves a little bit of network overhead.
Sure does.
He still needs to be able to stream Christmas Vacation, while he's up there on the roof working.
And let's say Justin's house is going to be the 78 network, because that makes sense. So what's the IP address of your first controller? .200? That works.
Yeah, that works good.
So there's our IP address. And everything else is the way we need it to be as far as the controller, so I will save it.
So there's
Never-
some chat about people doing big things with ESPs. Yeah, absolutely. You can do a ton of crazy stuff with ESPs. For me personally, I like the simplicity of a bigger controller, but that's not a first year approach. Um, but yeah, I think I ran across somebody that he said he was using like 35 ESPs to run a show in his front yard, and
That
it was
might be Chris in the chat.
blew my mind.
So I'm going to go over here to visualize, and we'll bring the visualizer over to this screen. And now I see here are my ports on my Dig Quad. The Dig Quad actually has 5 ports, even though it's called a quad. The 5th is a bonus port. We're going to put, I didn't name these, so this is really difficult, right? So they're just all called single line. So when Steve was
Well, why
talking
don't we
about
go
making
back
sure you
and fix
name
that real
things,
quick
let's go
before
fix
we
that. Yeah.
before we assign anything.
So we're going to give these names to kind of put them as far as what they are.
Oh,
and
so
keep
you
them in
built them all
order.
as single lines, Chris. Is there a reason you did that instead of using polylines?
I strongly dislike polyline.
Why?
The way the effects tend to render on it in xLights are different, and it also tends to get overused a bit.
Okay.
It probably would have been fine to do a polyline for the peak up here. I'm just resistant to clicking that button to start with, I guess.
The only use I've really had for polylines that make sense are rounded shapes. My roof
Yeah.
line or my windows and my garage door do have arches, and using polylines, I was able to get that arch to match since the native arch model was not
Oh, nice.
matching.
Yeah. There's a good reason. So let's see. What else do we need to think about while Chris is fixing the
Okay.
name here?
Roof peak left, roof
I don't know. A
peak
lot
right.
of times when the polyline, I end up submodeling it out anyway, so it'd just be better for it to be a single line in my instance as well. I don't really
Sure.
use the polyline.
My roof is a polyline because I started that way a bunch of years ago. And like Turtle said, I ended up having to submodel it out and then put the submodels into groups to make things look the way I wanted it to look. And
My lower roof line is a polyline because it's broken up into 4 pieces.
Yeah, it's usually those obscure use cases where polyline would make sense. All of the other times, if you can piece it together with straight lines, do that, it'll make your life way easier.
Chris, do you want to talk about the box that you're hitting no on there and why it might be good to hit no versus why it might be good to hit yes?
sure. So because we don't have a show built yet, and there's nothing that's relying on these names, I'm choosing to not hit yes on the alias box. And what alias is it remembers what the old name was. So let's say that I have this roof that I've renamed for the 3rd time and not actually saved. And the reason that's happening is because I'm leaving my cursor here in the name box. I'm clicking on the next thing, and I am not hitting the tab key on my keyboard to click outside of it. That's what actually makes it save, is when you click off of the name. So it's saying, would you like to save the old name as an alias for this prop? This could be useful if you have sequences already sequenced against this prop using the old name. So if I have sequences already built with these names, and I rename, say I want to rename roof lower to roof kids room or roof family room or something like that. If I already have sequences built mapped for this house, then when I open those sequences, it's going to say, I can't find roof lower. What do you want to do? Well, when you have aliases built, it gives it a default to know, follow those breadcrumbs and figure out what the new model is. Otherwise, it gives you a pop-up every time you open a sequence and you have to go and fix it.
And that's a new feature this year, right?
I think it was new late last year, but yeah, real recent.
But
because I
they've
don't have
added
anything.
quite a bit to it this year, I think, right? We had
Yeah, there's
aliases, but
been
all
a bunch of
this
fixes.
automated, like the pop-ups, I think was newer.
Yeah, and I'm guessing we probably won't talk about it tonight, but like groups and mapping will matter for names, right? Um, and just to give a little tease on that, like be smart when you build your groups because it's going to be a very impactful on what your effects look like when you import a commercial sequence or an xLight share drive sequence.
Yeah, and we can talk about some of that with just the window frames. I mean, windows
Yeah.
are an easy place to mess that up, honestly.
All right, looks like maybe you fixed all the names.
Yeah, so we've got door frames now. We can get those all set up. So I'm going to save that. We're going to come back to the controller tab. We still have our quad here that we built earlier. We're going to go to visualize.
I mean, I remember my first year calculating universes, so this is much easier now than it used to be.
So much easier now.
Yeah, going in and keeping your spreadsheet of what universes are what controller and
Channel overlap.
Ooh.
Yeah, that
All
was hard to chase.
yeah, for sure.
Check
So
sequence makes that so much better now too, so you
it
can
does.
see the.
But just not having to think about it is even better, right? Like just I'm going to put this over here and there. They're going to light up. I didn't have to think about anything with channels or universes or anything. It's just going to send all the data it needs to the controller and everything's magic. So this is our roof peak. That's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to drag that back. This is our roof lower. We're going to start with our roof lower because for a first project, I can hit this on an 8-foot step ladder. I can almost reach it on a kitchen step ladder, right? Really easy to access. I don't have to worry about anything fancy. Start small, learn the basics, figure out what's going on. So that's what we're going to do first is our roof lower.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Don't plan such a big project that you're going to get overwhelmed by it, right? There's so many things that you don't think about, and you're going to learn so much when you just put that first roof line up.
Absolutely. So we're going to do that, and we're going to get our first roof line going, and let's just mock that out here, right? We're going to do our first roof line, and we're going to save it. We're going to send that data to our controller by clicking this upload output button, and now xLights is going to send that information about that roof line to WLED. And then if we want to have those lights blink, I'm just going to simulate that here for the sake of the stream. Sequence animation. And we're just going to put a effect on roof lower.
Do you want to mention the shortcut keys you use to make that expand out the whole way?
Sure. So those shortcut keys, I click on the roof lower effect, and I'm holding Control Shift right arrow and Control Shift left arrow. For those of you that are doing like static sequences for running effects on your house, you want them to begin at exactly the beginning of the sequence and end at exactly the end of the sequence. That helps reduce some of the artifacting that you get when the sequence ends and reloops. But we're going to do this as a change the size of it. That's what we're going to do. Multiple chases. This will kind of look like the old.
So Chris,
Candy
help me
cane
remember, when I hit upload outputs to a WLED device, all it's going to do is set the pins for me. It doesn't set the actual LED preferences for the lengths of pixels or the protocol, correct?
It does do that. Yeah, it sets
Oh,
the
it does do it
protocol.
now?
Yep,
Okay.
it sets the protocol, the count of the pins, and here I've got an Uno here at my desk. I can plug in and get
Yeah,
connected.
I plugged one in already. I mean, I can throw it up or whatever you want to do here.
Yeah, whichever is easy. I can just make xLights send to it, and we can.
Yeah, why don't we, if you can, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Sorry, Justin, we're not going to use your home network anymore. Chris was going to show us for real.
Uh-oh. People are gonna start to learn my home network. Now I'm giving out secrets. Great traditions. So we've got a candy cane effect running across Justin's
Oh,
house
look at
right
those
now.
lights blink.
Cool. So give me just a second because
Yeah, my
I
first
flashed
year,
this morning.
when I started, I put a string of lights in my office, and I thought it was so cool that I was making them blank. Like I was, sitting here working in xLights, clicking some buttons, watching a DrZzs video, and all of a sudden I've got lights blinking in my office. Oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe we can put some of these on the house.
Oh, that's new. So I just flashed this, did you know, this morning, or an hour ago, actually. We were working with some guy in Discord for a problem he was having. And the Wi-Fi that pops up for it now is QuinLED-AP instead of WLED-AP.
Oh,
nice.
Is that because you use Quindor's actual flasher?
Must be, but that's new. I've used his flasher lots of times.
pretty tricky.
So I am connecting to the QuinLED-AP network on my phone, and I'm going to type in my network credentials on it without sharing them with you all, hopefully.
Quindor just confirmed in chat that it's new with WLED 15.
And then I just entered in my Wi-Fi SSID and my Wi-Fi password. And it pops back up and the network is still available. So that tells me that I must have mistyped the network. So this is a good learning opportunity for everybody. Oh, it says unable to join. So maybe I'm mistaken.
It does have to be a Wi-Fi network that's on 2.4 gig. The 5 gig does not work on
Yeah. And the ESPs
ESP
don't
dense
like
devices.
the mixed X APs either.
Okay. I just went too fast. It's actually in there. So I am going to go off screen here and grab what that IP address is.
Quindor is saying we recommend downgrading to 14.3 again.
If you see issues with flickering or corrupting channels.
We had someone that was in chat the other day with flickering and corrupting channels, and his solution was to flip the switches to 33. He was using 3-wire cables, so it was already something that really should have been on 33 to start with, and that fixed him. Right, so I need to make xScanner get fixed up here. So xLights comes with a tool called xScanner, and it will scan your network for looking for things like WLED controllers. And it wants to scan a network that's like the one that's already in there. So I'm just going to make that match the network that I know this thing is on. If this was the only thing on your network, you could also click Discover. But this is also the network that my light show is currently running on, and I don't want to discover all of my controllers.
We get all your stuff in the middle of showtime.
It sounds suboptimal, right?
Is your show still running, Chris? How late do you run?
It'll run till 11 tonight because it's weekend.
Ah, that's nice of you.
The cutoff time for my show is strongly influenced by the time that my wife gets tired of the lights blinking in our bedroom,
Ah,
because they are visible behind the blackout curtain. They kind of blink up at the top of the ceiling.
you should get her some nicer curtains then.
Yeah. Turtle made some suggestions that I could kind of gaffer tape something to the top of the window to kind of keep that top portion down, but we haven't quite committed to that yet. So we have a couple of WLEDs here in my house that I didn't realize I had. So give me a minute when we figure out which one is which.
Well, that's the problem. They multiply once you do your first project.
Right.
And there's the
That's
next
true.
one and the next one. And oh man, maybe I could put some lights on that.
And
So
then they're
this
not
is-
available for a second. So next time they pop into stock, you buy 6 more.
This is
Only-
a Did You Know
only
V3
6?
that I use as a pixel tester, and it has a really interesting preset on it that I'm going to pull over here right now. And some people on this chat may think it's funny. But this is my This is my pixel counting preset,
That's
Hey,
fabulous.
you did math for me. That's awesome.
right? So this preset will count every
Yeah.
10 pixels.
That's actually a really good point. It's another use for WLED that maybe people don't think about. When you're building a big prop, you can build a preset like this. So I built that big 4,465 pixel matrix for my show this year, where I was alternating, I think it was strings of 90. So I knew that I was on the right place if I had the right color. And I knock on wood, I was able to push that without too many problems.
Maybe this was, there we go.
It's like, are you still hunting for it? But it's doing
Yeah,
something.
it's not all that happy with me right now. So let's tell it that it's got 500 pixels right now. Save. So you can't have I also just recently upgraded this guy to WLED 15 so that I could help somebody with something. So it's set for 500 and then save. Why doesn't it feel like it's saving?
Uh,
This is why live demos are bad.
That's why live demos are awesome because we're learning about all the things that can go wrong, all the things you need to make sure that you double check.
Well, let's do it this way then. Let's give it a WLED 15 includes a per output limiter. So instead of just doing a,
Chris, Quindor saying use Control 5 to refresh browser cache. That might be it.
Sorry, did you say something, SG?
No, it was Alki.
Oh,
that was the Control F5 to clear cache, or Shift F5. Just on the individual window. And his other recommendation, if that didn't work, was to remove the second channel.
so to remove the second channel, I'm just gonna click the minus button
Yeah,
and then save. That
that's
did it.
what you
Thanks,
wanna
Quindor.
see.
Well,
There's
that's a
nothing.
weird thing in 15 then.
Yeah. Oh, it's not letting me change the length of the first one if there's, okay. But now that I have a longer install, I can say to do 500 LEDs.
Hmm.
And what
Yeah.
this will do is it will light every 10th LED red, because I have segment 1 highlighted. And then it'll do every, I think I'm telling stories here. I think what this actually does is it'll do every 50th LED is white, and then every 10th LED is red. So what that looks like from
peak.
the peak perspective, exactly.
Or not.
Yeah, right? Peak working at all?
I'm glad you're doing this because I haven't messed with 15 at all.
Yeah. Well, and
I haven't
Quindor's-
even tried to make anything light up on it yet. It's sitting over there in the corner. I didn't even realize it was plugged in.
Quindor came back and said, yeah, the changing channels doesn't really work that well in 15. They changed it, so you kind of have to rebuild them every time.
You said did power limiter off save?
But yeah,
It did, but the cache is still behaving funky. Let me try this with Chrome instead of. Brightness limiter's off. RGB 500.
So go back and try the peak again, see if it's just a edge thing. Yep.
There
That's
you
what
go.
it was. Okay, so we're gonna do segment 0, which is my every 10th is gonna be red.
You gotta change it to a solid effect instead of running.
Is that what I did? Seriously? Thank you.
I think both of them.
So segment 0
Quindor's
is gonna be,
Quindor is asking if the power limiter save
Yeah,
is
we
actually
said-
saved.
Yeah.
checked
it did save, yeah.
I think it's a artifact of Firefox being a weird with it.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna uncheck segment 0 and check segment 1. We're gonna set it to solid 2 and it's gonna be solid white. So you can see this doing not really what I was expecting it to do. Oh, it is.
Oh,
It's
that's
every
still, yeah, it's
every
still
10th is
Every
red.
10th is red and the
So-
50th
the
is
50th is white.
white.
So let's say we just did our house, right? And this is the lower roof line of our house. We didn't really count this as we're stringing the lights up. We can put this effect on our WLED and we can just go, we can go point at the lights, 10, 20, 30, 40, or we can just go, there's the white ones, it's 50, 100, 150, 200. Okay, that one's 453 pixels. Makes the math a little easier.
Math is hard.
Sometimes. But that wasn't even the right WLED, so let me take that back off screen and find the right one. Hold please. SG's probably got some hold music for us, right? This is Lizzie's LEDs. Let's not turn those on while she's sleeping,
Where's your sense of adventure?
right? This is it. Brand new, freshly flashed Uno with WLED 15. So we go to config and we've got LED preferences. Okay, so we're
Well,
setting this up for the first time. Go ahead.
are you gonna just have xLights update it? Or are we gonna do it manually?
Let's have xLights update it. Good
Yeah, I
call.
want to see what happens when you click upload.
Especially with the whole you can't change outputs in WLED 15.
Because I don't believe you.
Yeah, I'm
Well-
curious on how that works as well.
We see that it's currently set to 30.
Should have 30 on each port to start. Yep.
So we're going to come in here and we're going to set the IP address of this controller. Wow.
What did you paste in there? A book?
Apparently.
What is it doing?
37th time the charm?
I guess. We'll just type
Hey.
it instead.
I can't type with an audience either.
I was trying not to. I was trying to paste. All right, so
Good
I'm
to
going to
see.
click off of that a minute, and then I'm going to click back on it.
The
And
bubble didn't turn green though.
The
Interesting.
bubble didn't turn green. That is interesting.
Hit the open and see if it opens it properly.
It is the IP address.
Different subnet?
So I know for sure I haven't tested yet. So does 15 not play well with xLights?
I haven't touched it yet, so I have no idea.
I'm not sure
either.
that 15 is playing well with my Firefox is part of my problem. Oh, hold on. I know why that is. I have Firefox set up to go through my daughter's filtering proxy server. All right, so I have no presets yet. But if we go to config and LED preferences, it's going to say that it's 30, which is good. So we'll click off there and we'll click on there
It's
again.
Now it's green.
Right?
And try it again. Sometimes that's all it takes. You just click off of it and click on it again.
So the green light means that xLights can see that that controller is there and online. It recognized it.
So we're going to click on upload outputs. And it gives us a status window down here, WLED output complete. And then we'll come back to wherever that window was. And I'm just gonna refresh it. And it
Oh,
will
look
have
at
set
that.
that output to have only one output and for it to be the length of 100.
Perfect.
Interesting.
Now it also set the color order as GRB, which is interesting because I don't think it's set
Yeah,
that way in xLights.
It was already GRB.
Yeah. It used to only set the pins, I thought, but hey Chris, can we do an experiment quick? Can you
Yeah.
drag another prop onto port 2 and upload it? I'm just curious to see what happens now.
Now we're doing the upper roof line.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
the upper roof line.
So that's going to go from the left to the right, we said. So that's going to be
No,
roof.
The controller's in the middle, so you want to start on the right side, probably,
It
right?
didn't,
Yeah,
it
start
didn't
on the
change
right
the name
and
of
the
it
left.
again.
I didn't.
One because you have the two peaks, but not the.
It's a good thing we're not trying to sell this to somebody, huh?
Right.
We would get poor ratings as a sales team. Triple
All
A for
right.
delivery, though.
Now we're going to go back to controllers, back to here, back to visualize.
So now on that upper line, you're going to chain these props, right?
I am. And actually, now that we've done our roof lower and it's all working, I'm actually going to move roof lower to port 2. And we're going to start with roof upper on port 1. And I'll show you guys why. We're going to do that in a second. So we're going to do roof upper flat first, because that's where our pixels are actually connected to. And it's going to come out of there and it's going to go to roof peak right. And it's going to come out of there and it's going to roof peak left. And then we're going to close this and we're going to upload those outputs.
Did
So
you have
one
to
other
hit
thing,
save,
Chris, on your
Don't forget to
layout?
hit save.
On your layout, what about start location? Because you're going.
I didn't adjust those yet. I was just thinking that to myself. It's a good call. So let's stay on the WLED track for just a second and we'll take them over there in a minute. So we're going to go into LED preferences and we're going to look, and it's going to now say that we have 90 pixels on port
Oh,
1.
look at that.
This is our
Awesome.
whole upper roof line, and it's going to have 100 pixels on port 2.
So the only
Somebody
thing
have
I
a
didn't update
celebration
was the
emoji they can jam? Because that's pretty cool that worked.
It is nice. It's handy.
Chris,
Yeah.
color order doesn't update, which I thought it used to.
Well, let's go set the color order and see what happens.
I think you're right. I think it did used to.
Oh, you have to set the checkbox on the controller connection, I think.
Yeah, can you go back to xLights? Let's change them to GRB just to see what happens.
Okay.
No, in xLights. I wanted to see if it'll push the change.
Well, let me leave them to GRB here, and I'll make them
Okay.
push the right things from xLights.
Fair enough.
I know it's one of those things that was finicky before.
So when you turn that device on for the first time, by default, they should glow orange. If they don't glow orange, it means your color order's off. If you're not sure what the color order of the pixels is, you can just cycle through those until they show up orange.
And we're going to come down here to controller connection. We'll click that little arrow to come down, and we're going to say set color order. And it's going to disappear on me because it's fun.
So one of the things where this may be useful, last year we were all buying those Walmart trees, or maybe that was 2 years ago, and those were GRB. So you need to get those set up differently in xLights than your RGB pixels.
Yeah. Of course, it depends on which of the Walmart trees you clicked on and purchased.
Right. Well, and I heard there's a 7-foot GE seed pixel tree this year that people are having some pretty good success with.
Yeah, that's neat.
Is that the one that Chris is going to Lowe's to buy out as many he can find?
He might
I think so.
throw those spiral trees in the trash and put a real prop in his yard.
Those spiral trees are gone now. You can't see them.
Hey!
We've got some, wow, this backwards video is really getting to me. Anyway, there's a couple of spiral X's and 2 showstopper trees over there instead of the spiral trees.
The original spiral, original spiral.
They
Made it out again.
lived a good life, and then my dog decided that he wanted to run through them with the leash attached.
Smart dog, destroy.
I have a couple of the clips that were broken when I pulled them out this year, but they stood right on up, no problem.
So Justin was talking about start direction. Oh, we're going to squirrel. Hold on a second. Let's go back to where we were. So we just changed the color order. So we're going to come back here to controllers, And we're going to upload the output again. And again, we're watching for the status update over here on the left. If it doesn't update, or if it says that it failed, it'll maybe be an error message, maybe give you something to hunt for instead of just wondering why it didn't work. So we're going to come back here to WLED settings and then LED preferences,
Oh,
and it updated to RGB.
Nice. That's great that that feature is available from xLights now.
Yeah,
it's been there for a second, but it kept breaking
Yeah.
either with WLED changes or with xLight changes.
yeah. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to check the reversed. How's this going to function?
I
The reason I put the upper roof line on the top is so that it would be the first left-hand set of pixels as far as WLED is concerned.
Yeah, so what I think what you're getting at is if I want to run an effect and I'm starting from the center, right? And I ran what is it, like Chase 3 Holiday or whatever.
Yeah, so you
I'm
can
gonna
kind
go
of see
out
it.
from the center,
You
right?
can kind of see it with peak right here. If I do like, let's do 4th of July. Right, I've got 3 colors. WLED thinks of everything in a 1D line,
Yep.
right?
Straight
Everything goes from the left to the right. So it doesn't really think of the 2 levels of my roof, or even that it has peaks or any sort of shape at all. So this chunk of pixels is going to be Justin's upper roof line, and this chunk of pixels is going to be the lower roof line. So by making the first or left-hand portion be the one that I'm going to reverse, it makes those line up nicely. Also, if I had, say, a ranch that I wanted to do, you know, both sides of the house, I could have them kind of meet in the same line that way.
Or if we weren't using xLights, if we were just going to run WLED effects on the house.
Yeah, that's where that really comes in handy.
because I'm thinking if you set reverse tier and then you change your start in xLights, it's gonna flip.
I think they're going to fight with each other, right? That's what I'm curious.
Right.
I think they
I-
fight with each other as well.
That's
Yeah.
my guess.
So for the sake of this being an xLights video, I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to turn that back off, but that's
Yeah.
why I put that there.
Can we talk about that brightness limiter while you're on that page real quick? I don't know that we dove into that, but I know a lot of people run into problems with the brightness limiter, not understanding what it is.
Sure. So the brightness limiter is there to keep you from frying things before you know better.
You don't want to let
And
magic smoke.
you don't allow the magic smoke. But if you think about where a lot of us came from, where we're taking a bare, Node MCU and plugging it into our USB power supply in our computer, USB power supply in your computer doesn't supply a whole lot of power. So then plugging your pixels into that Node MCU, pulling power from that USB power bank, or whatever you have it plugged into, is
The hell was
not a
that?
real. Go ahead,
So she lifted it? Oh, damn.
Elko, you're not on mute.
Oops.
That was bound to happen sooner or later. You put 5 of us in a
Dog just
video.
made one heck of a bang, so we weren't sure what was going on.
So it's designed to keep you from frying things, right? That said, your DID June or your DID Quad, whichever, has fuses on it already. It's built to be a board that is capable of supplying pixel power to, within its thresholds, a fair amount of pixels. Because of that, if you're supplying the controller and your pixels with appropriate wiring within the fuse limits and everything that you have, really the best setting for this thing is off. And I'm going to apologize to you guys for the awful things that my light is doing. That light needs replaced tomorrow. It is like,
I just
whole
thought
thing.
there was a party going on.
Yeah.
That was strobing, and you were just so interested in xLights that you didn't want to join the party.
The light bulb's going off,
Yeah. All right. So thanks for taking that left turn on the brightness limiter. If you do have a big enough power supply, though, it's generally okay to check it off. And a lot of the times we'll get questions. My lights aren't very bright. That's the reason why. The default is set very conservatively. Please don't burn your house down.
I think
Core
the
values right there.
default is still like USB power limit, right?
Yeah.
It is. It's like 1 amp.
Yep.
So we're going to come back into xLights, not xScanner. We're going to close xScanner, so I stopped trying to click on it. We're going to come back into xLights, and we're going to go to the Layout tab. And we're going to think about these lights up on top of the house. So our controller is hooked up to this corner of this upper roof line. And when you click on these lines, there is a green dot on the left and a blue dot on the right. That's because when I drew them from left to right. If you remember, I was saying that we always draw things in xLights from left to right. It's specifically so we get those green blocks and blue blocks in the right place. They play a very important role in the way effects render. So we're feeding data into the blue box. So we're going to come down here into our layout tab, and we're going to say starting location is blue square. And we're going to do that for each of these. This starting location is also the blue square because it feeds this way. This is one thing that Polyline does have going for it, is you wouldn't have to set the starting location for each one of these individual lines. So now we've changed those and we're going to hit save. So now xLights knows that all of these lines are being fed from right to left. And this one down here is starting location green square, so it's being fed from left to right. We doing okay there? How are we doing on questions? One of you guys watching the chat?
It's
So
pretty-
far, no questions.
Okay, cool. Wonder if we just lost everybody. They
Right.
still watching?
It's probably just us.
Still
40
44 people watching.
44 people watching, so
People tuning in and being like,
There's
"Oh, I
at
came here
least-
for DrZzs." Who are
there's
these
at least
guys?
7 more there's at least more than the 7 of us.
Oh, it's just me. I've got 37 tabs open.
I was gonna say Justin has his grandma watching
And Justin's grandma's watching too.
for sure. Cool. So now we are uploaded, or now we're set up in WLED. So again, we're gonna come over here and we're gonna upload our outputs again because you can never have too much.
And I'm trying to
And-
think, what are some of the other common problems we see when people are doing this kind of thing? Like, where are the pitfalls?
Well, we've seen some challenges lately with the RGBW stuff.
Oh, that's right. So we've got new pixels, new pucks out that are RGBW. So they have a separate diode for white. It's an interesting point.
And the way that WLED and xLights kind of intermix with because they're RGBW, they each have 4 channels instead of 3 channels, and they kind of forget the math a little bit.
Yeah. So remember, the thing you plug your data into is a port, or a data port. A channel is a piece of color data getting sent down the wire.
And I think because a lot of stuff started with RGB and RGBW is newer for a lot of this stuff, it's almost like the software hasn't caught up with it.
Yeah.
Like,
And
test modes in FPP don't play well. I noticed earlier, Chris mentioned in the chat that with RGBW with WLED, I don't know of an issue, but maybe you guys do. He said to use E131 for RGBW still. So I don't know if there's something with DDP that doesn't play well.
there's a very specific implementation of something that works weirdly with the DPP implementation that WLED does that xLights doesn't expect it to do.
Yeah.
And I think there's an issue posted for it on GitHub, but it's one of those things, right? You can just use E131 and it's all right. Which, if you're on Ethernet, that's probably fine. It's a little less efficient, but your average gig internet can do quite a bit.
I'm thinking about LED 33. That's a big one, right? Flip those dip switches over. For most people, if you're going to use 3 conductors in a single sheath, switch it over.
Yep.
Absolutely. What are some of the other things that happen all the time? I'm trying to remember, while we're kind of going through this.
I mean, those are the big ones, right? We've got WLED configured. We've got
Make sure the fuses are good.
how do
Seen
you check
lot
a
of
fuse?
those recently.
Let's talk about how you check a fuse. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the power plug.
Somebody's laughing.
That's
And
it.
after I've unplugged the power plug, now I can start making connections or disconnections to my stuff because that's a problem.
Yes, prevent killing stuff.
So inside of our fuse, can't quite see it in the camera.
Little wire.
There's a little wire inside the fuse. And if you look at it very closely, you'll see that it is either straight or it has a crack in it. If it has a crack in it, it's bad. If it's straight and continuous, maybe it's not bad. The way to tell that it's for sure not bad is to get a voltmeter,
Put it in
or multimeter.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Put it in continuity mode.
Which camera, Quindor?
On the
Guys, no, we
YouTube
don't.
stream, we don't see Chris at the top. We see
Oh,
Just Chris's lights.
why do we
Oh,
not see Chris on the stream,
Chris
SG?
went to the really messy workbench to go grab his multimeter.
That's okay. Nobody can see you on
Nobody
the.
can see you.
It's just Joel and I for some reason. I don't know.
Hey,
Yeah.
SG, can you do change the zoom view to gallery?
Thank you.
You can also do the pin chat or pin video too if you need to.
I think
Top
he's
right,
about
SG.
5 seconds behind on the stream.
It may help if I stop sharing a minute.
Top right where it says view, right above the blue arrow you were on, SG.
Nope. Up higher.
There he is. Now I see you, Chris.
Okay,
Yeah, but now we lost the video.
I'll come back to this thing in a minute. So there's our fuse.
I only see your house now.
Yeah, where?
Yeah,
What is
There we go.
happening?
You're gonna have to turn off your background.
Oh, you guys want to look at my messy desk?
No, we don't want to see that. Standard blade fuse, right? They come in all the devices. You check them for continuity with a multimeter if you have one. If you're not sure, swap it for a different fuse in the device. But why don't we put bigger ones in? They
Well,
keep popping fuses. I'm just going to put a 25 in there.
so there is a rating for the board itself. There is a rating for the power supply. There's a rating for your wires. And if you put too high of a fuse in, the fuse is designed to be a planned point of failure for the circuit. So if you put too big of a fuse in so that the other things fail first, anything else can become the fuse. Whether that become the pixels on the house or the wire on the house or the power supply getting too hot.
We don't want to let the magic smoke out.
You don't want to let the magic smoke out. You don't want to burn down your house. All these things are bad.
Bare metal power supplies. That's another favorite of mine. People tend to take the devices and set them right down on top of those. And that will make things get crispy.
Yep, you need to have
Yeah.
something keeping the electronic parts from touching metal parts.
And the anti-static bag is not the appropriate thing to use. Those are also conductive.
The anti-static bag conducts electricity, yes.
Plexiglass. What else?
Cutting board,
Cutting board. Cutting boards are good.
just regular standoffs, something to keep it
Yeah,
up.
don't set
the-
don't set that circuit board right down on top of the
On anything.
anything.
Just needs to be on standoffs, period.
Yeah,
That's how I see it.
you could build a nice controller box using a turtle plate.
Well, that'll be another. That's
Yeah.
another day. We're still just getting started right now.
Absolutely, we're just working on not setting the stuff on fire.
So what are some of the other things that we see? Distance data boosters. Folks will say, "Hey, it's doing this weird flickering thing like Chris's video is right now." Or all my pixels get stuck. You need a data booster, right?
Yeah, if you
But-
try and go too far.
Oh, Chris is talking to somebody else. Yeah, generally like what, 10 to 15 feet maybe out of the dig device. Maybe you might get 20 if you're lucky. If you're going any further than 20 feet, you're going to need something to boost the data. 2, maybe 3 data boosters. Maybe 3. After that, maybe it's time to think about getting a second device or a second controller if you're really that far away.
Yep.
I think the other thing to note is test without a data booster first, because we've also seen a lot of instances where people throw in a data booster,
Yeah.
think it's going to help, and it actually has a negative impact.
Yep.
Well,
I don't know
and
if
good
anyone
point,
can explain
Justin.
that.
Don't put it right at the beginning, right at the data port.
Yeah,
If you come out of the data port and go right into the booster, it's not going to do anything for you.
Let's
yeah,
let's
And
talk about
Quinn-
that on Justin's house for a minute.
Yeah, and
Um,
Quindor just said with 33R, he said you should be able to get up to 10 meters, 32 feet.
I think in
Yeah.
the real world, I don't know that I've seen it go 32 feet. Maybe it's possible.
However, that does not mean pixel to pixel. That's
Right.
just from
Correct.
controller to first pixel.
Yep.
After the first pixel, it doesn't matter what that says. After the string of pixels and you put a gap there, pixels to pixels, there's about 7 feet, and that's about all you're gonna get.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of black magic around that too,
there
There
is.
is,
Yeah,
but
no,
because
no set rule.
I've for sure run 25 to 30 feet controller to pixel. In previous years, I've also ran I think 15 feet between pixels, which I know other people that have tried to run 3 feet between pixels and had a bad time.
Yep.
Yeah. I can run 5. 5 is my 5 feet from pixel to pixel is a kind of a layup, right? 10 feet is maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I'll probably need a booster. I'll have a pack of them if it needs it. But much further than that at my house doesn't seem to
Yeah.
work.
It
Yeah.
also depends on how good your extension is too.
It does. The wire size of your extension, the resistance of your connectors, all that stuff kind of plays into that equation.
That's actually a good point. It doesn't happen as frequently, but you can have bad pigtails and bad extensions. If you're pulling your hair out and you feel like you've tried everything, swap out the pigtail, swap out the extension.
Yep.
I had an extension this year that I ran across that positive and negative were reversed inside of the
Ooh,
the connection.
That's not good.
Wow,
Yeah.
that'll let the smoke out.
It puts a damper in the day, I'll tell you. On my brand new showstopper mini tree.
Ooh.
450 pixels of did that just happen?
Quindor's mentioning the new diff extensions. Yeah, that's a good option too if you've got to go long distance.
Yeah,
Can
that would probably be a
maneuver.
good one maybe to hit this window over here from our controller.
Yeah.
You could use a diff ADV to get the data out there, or maybe it's short enough that you could get it with a booster. But let's say that our controller is still over here. We're gonna hit this window, right? This window is 15 feet-ish. This should be okay with the 33R switch flipped. So we're gonna come out of our controller and we're gonna come up to the top left corner of this window because we always do windows all the same. So we're gonna do them all top left for this house. If you don't do your windows all the same, someday you'll be sad.
Very much sad.
Yeah, and absolutely, if they're the same dimension, make them the same pixel count. Don't make my mistakes.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think you have to use a certain starting point. It's just use the same starting point
Yeah,
for all your
be
windows,
careful.
right?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, if you're gonna change the starting point, don't change one of them, change all of them so they're all the same. Because it will affect the way effects render on them.
Another thing when we start talking about other controllers, and we'll get into that another time, is there's the Falcon Smart receivers too, which let you put data ports far away, what, like 200, 300 feet.
Yeah, it's up to the limit of how the twisted pair and the Ethernet can run,
Yeah.
which is very similar to the Quindor diff receivers that he has now. The diff
Yeah,
ADVs are
we
a
should
neat
get
tool
some
for
of
that.
those and see if they're compatible. I'd be interested to figure that out.
They're an interesting tool. So instead of having Ethernet off your controller like you get to the smart receiver, it comes out of your controller as a pixel port and it hits a sender.
Yeah.
And then from that sender, it can send data out via Ethernet to the remote units.
But don't plug those into your home network because it'll fry the port.
Yeah, it's not Ethernet data, it's its own thing.
Yeah. What else, Justin, Joel? Can you guys think of other things that common problems people have? Maybe
Well, I
we
was
should.
going to talk about boosters for a minute. That's why I turned these windows back on.
Yeah,
So we're
sure.
going to come out of this controller and we're going to go to the bottom left of the window, which is where this tiny little blue dot is in the bottom left, if you can see it. So we're going to come out of here. We're going to go to this window. We're going to go clockwise, so up, over, down, and left. And then we're back where we started. And then we want to go hit the next window because this is really only 50 pixels or so. We want to hit more than that in a single port. So from this left of this window to this left of this window, that's over the number that I'm comfortable with being, problem-free pixel
About
to
10
pixel.
feet. So
About
it's
10 feet, yeah. Maybe it'll work. We're already up on a ladder. I don't want to get it back up on the ladder again. I'm going to put a booster there. So I'm going to put a booster right here at the last pixel. And from the booster, now I can go probably another 25, 30 feet or so. I'm going to stay closer to 20, 25 just because it's safer, but I'll have no problem getting from the end of this window to the end of this window with that booster. I'll do the same thing around this window. I'll go around the window, and then I'll come out here and I'll hit another booster, and I'll go to our third window. And just like that, we can hit all three of those windows with one port off of that DIG quad. So we're
So
going to give
Chris,
these
we didn't talk about it, but how many pixels in a row could we do?
on a quad. The recommendation is to have 500 to 600 pixels per port, or what is it, roughly 2,000 pixels for the ESP?
Yep.
but when
Just
you're
another thing to consider, and FPS, right? Your frames per second on the refresh could potentially be impacted.
Yeah. So I'm just going to give these windows names here. And I'm going to try and not do it 4 times this time.
Don't start making it easy now.
While you're
People
doing
would
that,
get bored.
Turtle put a comment out there for us about the type of wires we use and why. Generally with pixels outside, you're going to want a waterproof connection. JST that you get on a lot of Amazon pixels is not waterproof. Whether some people have survived using them is a different story. They are not technically waterproof. There is a waterproof JST, but that's not what you're getting from Amazon pixels that I've seen. So a lot of us, there's a couple standards. XConnect is the biggest one now. There's also Ray Wu, and there's a Paul Zhang connector that I don't know if I know anyone that uses.
Yeah, I don't think so.
They're waterproof connectors. XConnect is kind of the biggest one. If you go through all the vendors that are out there, everyone carries XConnect. Not everyone carries Ray Wu. So if you're starting new, my recommendation is always XConnect now.
I say buy Ray Wu because everybody always has the stuff in stock.
Except when they don't.
Except for you only get them from 3 out of 20 vendors.
But Justin, you bring up a good point. Amazon Pixels. Can we just agree don't buy them? And I'm gonna put an asterisk on the end of that. There's a couple of vendors who do provide pretty good quality. Don't price shop these. Don't go looking for the cheapest pixel you can find, because you're not gonna have a good time.
Yeah, I'd say the one exception is we do know that Paul Zhang does have an Amazon pixels. They're more expensive than any other place that you're going to get them. So if you need them next day, great. Use Amazon and use Paul Zhang Direct. Is I think the name of the store on Amazon. But outside of that, yeah, I would not. The other thing along with that is the extension wires are also XConnect. They're nice connectors. It might seem like building your own custom extensions might save you money. I will guarantee you, and I have somewhere a spreadsheet.
Been there, done that.
You will save 25 cents.
Over the
50
whole
cents on a
30 or
whole
40
extension.
build, yeah.
I thought that
And-
your spreadsheet showed that you actually spent 25 cents more because you had to pay for the ends, you have to pay for the solder seals, you got to pay for the heat shrink.
I think on like a 5 foot, I think it might actually cost you more. On a 20 foot, I think you save like 50 cents. But guess what? Your time is not worth building those. I
Yeah, we should put
guarantee
that
it.
on the list
No.
for the second year too, right? Like things to consider. If you're gonna do a sea cargo order, China Direct, order like 4 times the extensions you think you'll ever need.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on that. I think the amount of extensions that you think you need versus the amount of extensions you'll actually use is 4 to 6 times.
Yeah.
I thought I was doing good ordering 3 times what I thought I needed, and I still ran out this year.
I bought twice what I thought I needed. And then I bought another order from one of our friends who got shipped the wrong ones and bought the wrong ones that he had gotten by mistake. And I thought I had more extensions than I would ever need. It was not the case.
I'm on my 5th year and I still haven't learned the lesson. So
For me, it's
Yeah.
the time thing. It's the time and it's the reliability, right? The pre-made ones, the jackets waterproof the whole cable, right? And you can heat shrink your connections, and you can heat shrinks over your heat shrink seals for the wires, but it's not the same level of waterproofness as the other ones are. They don't have the same aesthetic quality, and they save hours of my life that I'll never get back.
Yeah,
And they'll save hours of my life.
drilling
that I'll never get back.
PVC, making your own extensions, things I don't recommend doing.
They are definitely a quick path to a bald head.
So how are we doing, Justin? Did we get you set up for your first year?
Yeah, for year one next year, we will be good to go. I mean, in my mind, okay, I'm a couple years experience now, and I want to do everything possible. But the other thing is, it may look simple, it may not have props. But one of the things I learned, I don't know, year two when I started adding all my window frames is window frames and house outlines are 10 times better than any of the props you put in the yard. The
Yeah.
mega trees are cool, but seeing your whole house have lights on it is way better.
Well, and let me throw it out there because you can do it on the dig quads is floodlights. Floodlights give you an awesome amount of lighting fill on the house and just really makes that effect pop.
I agree. Floods were one of the single best things I
You
added
can
to my
see
show.
that in my show in the background, like that purple is all from the floodlights.
And those are things that are more multi-season as well, right? Like you could leave your floodlights out as multi-season landscape lights.
Yeah, I don't. I know that people do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Vader's in the chat. He said floods are the key to his show. And
Uh,
Vader's got a
the
big
Dark Lord
impressive
runs at
mega tree. He's
100%.
got big flakes on his roof. He's got moving heads.
So we
He's got
didn't
a lot
talk
of
about
different things.
brightness settings. I did mention we've got the Dark Lord in chat there. Not many of us run these lights at 100%. I think my standard is 35. I'm running two matrices at 10%.
So I clicked over in xLights to the controller tab to change the setting that is not there for WLED.
Now there is a caveat to running lower brightness. You don't get as many color steps for
It's true.
colors blending as you would like, but we do run 30%. And usually it's pretty
Yeah.
well on point, and you can see what's going on, especially when you're looking at a black house. I mean, if you were comparing it to something inside with a lighted house, you would kind of think it was a little dim, but outside, it's fine. Usually 30% will work.
Will WLED respect the gamma setting from the controller? I think maybe it doesn't.
It does not.
Does
Okay.
not.
But it does respect the brightness setting. And there's a couple different ways within WLED that you can do that. So I can come in here, and the way that I did this for years was I would come in here and I would change my default brightness to a number that was 30% of 255. And if someone is better at math than me, we'll just guess that it's going to be 90 something. No argument? Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm
Sounds good to
particularly
me.
bad at math. Whatever you want to go with, I'm on board.
So that's going to say that when I restart WLED, and we'll just go here and do it, we click on the info button and we click on reboot WLED, confirm reboot. It's going to apply that default brightness setting to my brightness slider over here in the top right. And if I'm not in here monkeying with it, it's going to stay there. That's close to 30. Now the caveat is if you've given access to WLED on their phone to your spouse and they're just tapping away and clicking away, that's a really easy setting to change.
Or your kids.
Or your kids. So there's another setting in here which is harder to mess up, and it's brightness factor. And if I come in here and I say brightness factor is 30 and I save, then that means that if I bring this brightness slider all the way up to the top that's 30% brightness. And then that's half of 30, that's a tenth of 30, etc. So that's much harder for someone to come in here and drag a slider too far over and pop your fuses. So that's what I do now. Especially for the WLED instances that are in my girls' bedrooms, because they just don't need to be that bright.
Yeah, so I feel like we hit everything pretty good here tonight. I don't see a ton. I actually don't see any questions in the chat. What do you think? Did we have a successful stream? I feel like we did. We got Justin some WLED roof lines set up,
Yeah.
ready for his first year, dropped a bunch of knowledge. What do you think,
People
SJ?
showed up.
People showed up.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
Yeah, I think so.
I think the
We're
one big reminder to put out there is for the next stream of Christmas. Supposedly DrZzs is streaming tomorrow,
Ooh.
2:30 Mountain Time. He missed yesterday, so he's got to do 2 streams tomorrow. Is what I'm saying. He's not here to defend himself.
Everybody's always invited to join us on Discord.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys ever need any pixel help, come hit us up on Discord. Chris will save everyone while we all sit back and watch.
Yeah, pretty
On,
much. That's how it works.
Time for echo again on Discord. There's a channel 12 streams of Christmas, so all the information for all the 12 streams are there if you want to know where and when. I'll be streaming. These guys will be streaming next weekend, so come and watch me on my channel. I'll be there too.
Right.
All right, cool. Well, I enjoyed it tonight. Great time, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Thank you,
fun.
SG, for supporting us and getting us connected here.
No problem.
Yeah.
Except for my echo.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks SG, thanks Doc, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Joel, for setting up the Zoom thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, everyone.
And thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, SG.
I'm not going to have a good joke for you, but catch you when the wind blows the right direction. So, bye.
Bye.
Bye.